What if your whole life was a lie? If the ethereals lied to you, manipulated you? The greater good, a cunning lie to get you to conform? It is not possible, you might say. You've seen their generosity and wisdom firsthand. Why though would a legendary and decorated commander as Farsight leave the Empire, if not in disappointment in a flawed system? A hero previously celebrated by their own propaganda. Others whisper that the Dawnblade, a relic found on his campaigns, might have tainted Farsight's mind and made him more bloodthirsty and rebellious still, even relying on it to live on, as it steals the foe's lifespans. Whatever the truth, Commander Urshova is an undisputed master of Montcar, the Tau meta strategy of the killing blow. Piloting his crimson battlesuit, he leads his separatist Firecast force from the front, carving a bloody path into the enemy. Commander Farsight is the newest legendary character coming to Tacticus, starting December 28th. Spoiler, it will be a pretty rough one, and I'll delve into that deeper soon. But getting Farsight will be incredibly rewarding, as he seems to be great from the outset. You will have to excuse the mottled audio this time, as most of this video was ready when we got 1.35, and some minor details about Farsight have changed. And I desperately wanted those changes in, of course, to bring you up-to-date informations where you don't have to switch between different videos. We don't see Farsight himself, only his mech suit on his model. Unusual for a Tau battlesuit, it is equipped with a giant melee weapon and a shield, but his plasma rifle mustn't be underestimated. Farsight is a mechanical character to reflect the suit piloted by him. Like Rivers, he can also fly and has the big target trait, protecting those around him. His Beast Slayer trait reflects his ambitious nature, dealing 20% extra damage with melee attacks against big targets and vehicles, and gaining a 10% block chance against their attacks. This extra block is an extra potential block chain to his block equipment slot. Offensively, he features a crit equipment and a crit booster. With a move of 4 and a ranged attack, Farsight will be flexible enough to pick his targets or search for a spot from which he can buff his allies best while still attacking. Fitting for a general favoring close quarters fighting, he's the only Tau without close combat weakness. Farsight's bulk is considerable, with a health on one level with Ascor and Ragnar at place 18. His armor isn't as impressive, just a tiny bit below average, comparable to Khan and Abraxas, which is still Space Marine level armor, don't get me wrong. He can live a hit, but his main focus should be attacking. And there we can look at extraordinary values. His melee attack features 4 hits of power damage, with considerable damage for place 20 at the same level of Rask against unarmored targets. Against high armor targets, he is in place 18 even, on one level with Asmodai. While only featuring 2 hits, the higher PS ratio of his plasma ranged attack ensures place 16 against high armor targets with ranged attacks. Against no armor, this of course falls off, as Farsight just doesn't have the raw numbers here with a below average place 30. Better than Makotep, but worse than Abaddon or Helprecht. Sounds solid, but hardly revolutionary? That's where his passive comes in. Way of the Short Blade features an orc in its graphic, the enemy against which Farsight honed his tactics, and an enemy you rarely can keep your distance from. If there is an ally adjacent to an enemy fighter, all normal shooting attacks from allied fighters in 2 hexes around Farsight against that enemy ignore parts of their armor and deal some additional damage with their normal shooting attacks, excluding psychic damage. No damage cap anymore, but slightly less damage than the initial version. Farsight himself and Tau characters will also immediately after attacking with a melee attack perform a normal ranged attack against their mark, even if adjacent. This is pretty unique, but will mainly affect Farsight himself, as it doesn't negate the close combat weakness the other Tau have. Future Tactifux again. Close combat weakness has been rebranded and reworked into a ranged weapons specialist. This helps Tau a lot. I discussed this in detail in my patch note video. Go watch that if you want to see how every Tau is affected. Especially for Revas, I calculated a lot of different situations. Basically, the damage of affected units has been decreased by 25%, but instead of a debuff for being or starting next to an enemy, you now get a buff for not starting your turn next to an enemy. It works out to pretty much the same damage, except for melee where it's higher. It has changed Farsight's use a little though, as not starting gains the buff. You're not penalized for charging in, and you'll still get the buff of ranged specialist for charging in, combining well with the now higher melee attack. Remember, it's their old attack stat minus 25% basically, whereas before it was a 50% debuff for melee. So charging in gets you the buff and you have higher melee damage. I calculated how much Farsight's buff has changed to the old version of the buff we never got to experience. For this, I didn't even add the ranged weapon specialist bonus you'll get when charging in, just standing there next to the enemy and attacking. Keep in mind, it is comparing the old damage with debuff versus the new damage without the buff. Individual damage changes are included. But at the highest level, with Farsight's help, the Tau will add 9 to 71% compared to the old version against no armor, as well as 8 to 123% against infinite armor. Darkstrider and Shadowsun profiting most, especially because of their own buffs in the latest version. So if you watch a video where other creators use Farsight in combination with any Tau, pay mind to when they released it. If it was done before the 1.35 patch notes on the 15th of December, the damage number of the individual Tau will be way up from there. Farsight's passive interaction is especially fun for show, who will still summon a throne when attacking via way of the short blade and won't only be able to use it in guild raids. I can see him using it occasionally, especially in long retreating fights like legendary events, where the enemy coming to close quarters often is the detriment of a run, when he runs out of his thrones. The extra pierce and damage for other characters could of course help tremendously in a ranged guild raid team, like one could imagine with Falk and Chiron buffed by Thaddeus and Adamata around to buff additionally to Shadowsun. Adamata needs to go to combat, and since Farsight doesn't profit from the damage increase himself and does attack twice when going into melee, he will often be the one enabling the buff himself. Just be sure to do your melee attacks first and fire away after with your ranged fighters. As a description of his active exemplar of the Montcar, I've heard the term ranged Ragnar thrown around, and I think is apt. He can even use Anshi to use it twice in the same turn, which will double the effect. For the turn it's used in, characters with normal ranged attacks become unstoppable, and they deal extra damage, which more than doubles against big targets. You can immediately see that this is meant against guild raid bosses, and wow! With fighters with 5 or 6 hits available, it will increase their damage output manifold. As with Ragnar, that doesn't end your turn. So, where to use Farsight? Obvious, he will be great at guild raids. I told you guys often that I believe in an upcoming ranged meta, and this is probably the tipping point getting this team off the ground. If you bring Farsight, Chiron as a main damage dealer, Thaddeus as his best friend to buff him, and Falk, who is greatly buffed by both, too, with a side of probably Adamata for extra range damage, you will probably deal a lot of damage. Now, with most Tau buffed, teams including them will be able to deal massive damage. But you yourself will have to see whether building up a set of so far unused characters like Darkstrider for this team might make sense for you. I reckon he will be fun in Arena too. Helping Revas out and in Guild Wars an Overwatch team with him might be quite nasty. Of course, as a Xenos character, he can't help you out in any campaigns. For legendary events he fulfills every hit requirement but max 1 hit and min 5 hits, so you will often be able to use him. Beast Slayer without the Imperium is not possible yet at 4 characters, and without Chaos we are at 6 at the moment, so he'll be pretty important there. Big Target is equally rare with only 6 in non-Imperium tracks and 8 in non-Chaos tracks. Flying, while not as rare at 13 and 14 characters for without Imperium and Chaos respectively, is appreciated and comes up often, as is Mechanical, with at the moment 15 characters in without Chaos tracks and only 9 in without Imperium tracks. The attack types are rarer again, with only 6 characters in non-Chaos tracks featuring Plasma, and the track isn't even possible without the Imperium yet. Power with Imperials is really ubiquitous, but without the Imperium it only has 11 characters, so Farsight could shine here too. His reliable attacks help kill enemies, and his buff can be considered especially paired with Tau, but as he can only kill one enemy a turn and has no summons or heals, he isn't a prime candidate to use in legendary events. His rare traits might make him important still, especially if you have built him anyways, which I'm sure many of you will do in the long run. If you found this review useful or entertaining, you can use my referral code BAD60edu to help me out in game. Please also share this video around and subscribe to my channel for more content. One of Farsight's weaknesses in legendary events can immediately be remedied with his relic, the Dawn Plate. It will be available immediately with his first event, and will buff his melee damage for each time a close-by ally uses a ranged attack and repairs him when he kills an enemy with a melee attack. This makes him way better in long-form modes. Now for the Mythic Missions, and while I struggled a bit with the missions for Haskell, these ones are far easier. Killing 2 enemies with the big target trait sounds daunting at first, but finding any arena team with 2 big characters such as the ubiquitous Revers and Gulgords, which I both often use myself, would be enough to fulfill it. Or take him to a legendary event track with Tyranids, or guild raid Tyranid side bosses with 2 Tyranid warriors, or even sometimes an Onslaught. Mission 2 needs you to deal 9000 damage, which will be easy enough with Altion and the number of hits you bring. Defeating 100 enemies for characters that can't be used in campaigns is always rough, so better take him to Onslaught regularly. Mission 4 needs you to defeat 5 enemies that have the Marker Light effect in one battle. As this is only in one battle and not in a turn, this is fairly trivial. Taking Show and Darkstrider in Onslaught will make this really easy. If those 2 are too strong in your roster, you'll need to do it in Arena, where you can also use the Tau Machine of War to apply more Marker Lights. Mission 5 needs you to do damage with either damage type, and as Farsight will hit with both in one turn regularly, that should go by faster than most other characters too. That's it from me on this legendary commander. I never liked Ragnar much, but the 2 attacks per turn from Farsight intrigue me. His effective uses with the other Tau are of course also fun. Still, as someone that isn't much into mechs, I'll have to grumble about how Orcs or Necrons could also use their first legendary character. Like, this is the 3rd legendary Tau out of 6, which makes them really hard to get a hold of as a new player. Which other 6th character would you love in game? Let me know in the comments. In the meantime, watch some more stuff here on screen, and as always, have a wonderful day. If you'll excuse me, I need to brainstorm legendary orc ideas I can pitch to Snowprint.